Most people do not find out something is wrong with their family during a holiday dinner or a big public fight. I found out at 7 inches the morning, sitting in the dark, when a phone I almost did not answer turned out to be my 8-year-old granddaughter asking me a question I could not answer. My name is Tommy Crane. I am 64 years old, a retired civil engineer from Manassas, Virginia. I spent 28 years drawing load calculations for bridges that are still standing. I still wake up at 5:15 most mornings out of habit. I still make coffee in the same 12-cup Mr. Coffee machine I have had since 2009. I know the name of every cashier at the Harris Teeter on Route 28. I have never once finished a crossword puzzle, but I start one every Sunday. And I've always considered that the important part, I am not a dramatic person. My wife, Sandra, used to say I had the emotional range of a parking meter. She meant it lovingly, mostly, because she had enough emotional range for both of us. After she died 4 years ago from pancreatic cancer, just 8 weeks from diagnosis to the end, I started noticing how much of the world she had been quietly managing on my behalf. I noticed the Saturday morning ritual she kept for our granddaughter, Lily. I noticed the way Sandra could read a room, lean toward me afterward, and say in a voice low enough for only me to hear, "Tommy, pay attention." I was not paying attention. My son, Derek, was 38 years old, and his wife, Melissa, booked a 7-night Caribbean cruise. It cost $20,000. The Carnival Glory, sailing out of Port Canaveral. They took their biological son, Ethan, who was 11. They left behind their adopted daughter, Lily, who was 8, at home with a babysitter in an empty house for 7 days. That is not the whole story. The real story is what happened after Lily called me at 7 inches the morning and asked me why. Sandra started the Saturday cereal tradition the week Lily came home. She went to 3 different grocery stores to find the right cereal, the purple box, the one with the small marshmallows that, according to Lily at age 3, tasted like candy that was trying to be cereal. Sandra would put a bowl of it on the counter every Saturday morning before Lily arrived, the same way she put coffee on before I got up, as a quiet announcement that someone was expected, that someone was wanted. After Sandra passed, I kept the ritual. I did not think about it much. I just bought the purple box and put a bowl on the counter at 7:30. Lily came through the door at 7:45 with her library book and her yellow rain boots, which she wore indoors exclusively for reasons she never explained. She ate her cereal while I read the newspaper, and that was Saturday. I want to explain what that ritual really was before I tell you what I eventually learned about it. It was the one completely unconditional thing in Lily's week. Not the only good thing. Not the only place she was loved. But the only place where nothing was required of her. No performance. No effort. No sensing the temperature of a room. She sat at my table, ate her cereal, existed, and that was enough. I did not understand the weight of that for a long time. Sandra understood it from the beginning. She understood it the way she understood most things, before I even thought to ask. Derek called me on a Thursday afternoon in June. I was in the garage sorting through Sandra's garden tools when everything I had been filing away started adding up. His voice had that particular easiness people use when the decision has already been made. He told me he and Melissa were taking a trip, 7 nights, a Caribbean cruise, Port Canaveral. They were leaving on the 14th. I set down the trowel in my hand and told him it sounded great. I asked when. He said in 2 weeks. I waited, but he did not add anything. So I asked, "The 3 of you?" There was a pause. Half a second too long. Then he said, "Yeah, 3. I asked, "What about Lily?" He cleared his throat. He said Lily would stay home with Rachel. Rachel was great. Lily liked her. A cruise ship was a lot of stimulation. I kept my voice flat. I said Lily was 8 and Ethan was 11. He said it was just this particular trip. The timing. I said, "Okay." He said, "You're upset." I told him I was thinking. He asked if I could check in on Lily a couple of times. I said yes. Then I hung up and stood in the garage with Sandra's trowel still in my hand. After that, I drove to their house. I do not remember deciding to go. I just went. Lily answered the door in her yellow rain boots, indoors as always, with a brightness I recognized as her default setting. She asked me if I knew cruise ships had pools on the roof. She had been looking it up. I sat down on the porch steps. She sat beside me. The June afternoon was warm and smelled like cut grass from 2 yards over. She opened her library book to a page about bottlenose dolphins and started reading to me, her finger moving under each line. 3 years of small observations sat in my chest while she read. The birthday without strawberry frosting. The Instagram post with 8 photographs and no Lily. The word sweetheart used 12 times in a year, and my daughter not once. 3 years, and I had filed it all away. I brought Lily home with me the day they left. I made pancakes that first morning. We watched half of a nature documentary, the one about deep-sea creatures, which Lily had opinions about. She fell asleep on the couch at 9:30 with her head on the throw pillow, and I covered her with Sandra's quilt. I stood in the doorway longer than I needed to. On day 2, she asked if Ethan had texted. He had not. I showed her how to send him a drawing she had done on a paper bag. It was a seagull, because she decided he would probably see real ones near the ship. He did not write back. On day 3, the Weather Channel ran a travel segment behind the anchor. Stock footage of a cruise ship, white and enormous, cutting through blue water. Lily stopped eating her cereal. She watched the screen for 4 seconds. Then she asked me if cruise ships were expensive. I told her they could be. She nodded and went back to her bowl. That evening, I made the mistake of looking at Melissa's Instagram. 8 photographs in 3 days. The captain's table dinner. Ethan holding a coconut drink. A sunset. Derek's arm around Melissa's shoulder. The upper deck pool, all of it luminous. None of it containing any mention of the child at home who had been researching cruise ship pools before they left. My sister Carol texted me around 9 that night, telling me she was thinking of me and Lily and asking if we were okay. I wrote back that we were getting there. Then I put the phone face down on the kitchen counter. The house was quiet. The purple cereal box sat on the shelf where it always sat. On night 4, I fell asleep early, which I almost never do. The phone rang at 2:07 a.m. I had it in my hand before the second ring. Old habit from the years my kids were teenagers. Then from Sandra's last months when the hospital sometimes called at strange hours. The screen said Lily iPad. I answered and said her name. She said, "Grandpa." Her voice was small. Not panicked. Small in the way a child gets when she is trying not to take up too much space. She told me she could not sleep. I asked where Rachel was. She said Rachel was asleep. She said she got up to get water and just wanted to talk to me. Then she paused and asked if that was okay. I told her, always. She was quiet for a moment. I could hear her breathing. Then she asked, "Grandpa, why didn't they take me?" I sat on the edge of my bed in the dark, and I did not say anything. The room was exactly the temperature it always was. The streetlight came through the curtain gap the way it always did. Everything was completely normal, and everything was completely wrong. I thought about all the soft answers. The ship is complicated. You will go on a trip soon. They love you. You know that. Instead, I told her I did not have a perfect answer for that. She thought about it, then quietly said, "Okay." So I told her a story. A dolphin who was afraid of boats but learned to swim alongside them anyway. By the end, she was yawning. I waited until I heard the small, rhythmic breathing that meant she had gone under. Then I sat in the dark until 5:10 a.m. At 5:10, I called Carol. I told her I knew it was early. She said she was already up, which was almost certainly not true. I asked if she was up for a last-minute trip. She paused and asked if it involved a boat. I told her it involved a boat. A kitchen at 5. 10 inches the morning is a specific kind of alone. No other people. The Mr. Coffee, on its 4th cycle of keeping itself warm. The purple cereal box on the second shelf where I always put it. Sandra's garden trowel on the counter because I had brought it inside the day Derek called and had never taken it back out. There were 2 paths in front of me. I could call Derek when the sun came up. I could say I had concerns. I could say I thought we needed to talk. I could say we should figure this out when he got home. That was the reasonable path. It was also the path I had been on for 3 years. The path that had delivered me to a kitchen at 5, 10 inches the morning, waiting for a reason not to move. I did not pick up the phone to call Derek. I picked up the laptop. I looked up the Carnival Glory's itinerary, Nassau, Bahamas, day 2, the following afternoon. Carnival's mid-cruise embarkation policy existed. 2 interior cabins on deck 7 were still open, $890 per person. I looked at the cereal box for a long moment. Sandra had gone to 3 grocery stores to find that box. Then I opened the airline tab. Here is what they had taken from Lily without intending to think of it that way. They took the assumption that she was included by default. They left her with the knowledge that she had to earn her place in a way Ethan never would. That was not just a trip. That was a message. And the only answer to a message like that is a different message. I booked the flight at 5:23 a.m. Carol got to my house at 6:15. I had coffee ready. I walked her through the itinerary, the mid-cruise embarkation window in Nassau, the 2 interior cabins on deck 7, the 6:05 a.m. flight out of Dulles. She listened the way she always listened. She did not interrupt. She just took it in, running her own calculations. When I finished, she said, "You're serious." I told her I was serious. She looked at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. She nodded once and said she needed to go home and pack. While she was gone, I went to the small bedroom Lily used when she stayed over. It was the one with the glow-in-the-dark stars Sandra had stuck to the ceiling 3 Christmases ago. In the closet was the pink rolling suitcase Lily kept there, the one with the zipper pull broken and replaced by a keyring shaped like a flamingo. I pulled it out and started packing it. Her dolphin t-shirt, her swimsuit, the library book about dolphins, sunscreen, her purple toothbrush, the spare pair of yellow rain boots she kept at my house, the ones she wore indoors for reasons no one had ever successfully established. I did not call Derek. That was a decision, not an oversight. I had been calling Derek with concerns for 3 years. This was something else. When Carol came back at 8, she stopped in the doorway and looked at the bags by the front door. Her bag, my bag, and the small pink flamingo suitcase. She said my name in a warning tone. I told her I knew. She picked up her coffee and did not argue. I texted Rachel and told her I would be sending a car for Lily that morning. I asked her to pack whatever Lily would need for a few days. Rachel texted back 4 minutes later. She said Lily had been up again at 4 asking for me, and she would have her ready. Carol and I were already at Dulles when the car pulled up. I saw Lily before she saw me. She came through the sliding doors in her dolphin pajamas, her library book under her arm, her hair loose, squinting at the terminal the way a person does when a building is too bright and too loud all at once. She spotted me and stopped walking. Rachel was 2 steps behind her. She gave me a small nod. She had clearly been awake most of the night, and the look she gave me was not surprise. It was relief. I crouched down to Lily's level and told her good morning. She looked at me with that particular quality in her voice, like she was processing and weighing everything at once. She asked why we were at the airport. I told her we were going to the beach. She looked at the terminal, the departure boards, the rolling suitcases, and then her eyes went down to the small pink bag I was holding behind me. Her bag. The flamingo key ring caught the fluorescent light. She stood there for a moment without saying anything. Finally, she said, "You packed my bag before I even knew we were going." It was not an accusation. It was not even a question. It was an 8-year-old identifying with complete accuracy what had happened. Someone had thought of her before she thought to ask. I told her her dolphin shirt was in there. She took the bag from me, tucked the library book more securely under her arm, and took my hand. 5 feet back, Carol made a sound I chose to interpret as clearing her throat. I still had not told Derek a single word. Lily fell asleep somewhere over South Carolina, her head against my shoulder, the dolphin book open in her lap. Carol leaned across the aisle and told me to tell her everything from the beginning. So I told her things I had not said out loud before. When I named them, they became a different kind of weight. Derek and Melissa had adopted Lily in 2021. She was 3, from a foster situation in Roanoke. The adoption came after 4 years of trying, after clinical language and timed appointments and hope depleting in installments. Derek had been wrung out in ways he did not talk about. When Lily came home, he was lit up in a way I had not seen since he was young. Then Melissa got pregnant 18 months later. No explanation, no medical accounting for it, just a positive test that rewrote everything. Ethan was born healthy and perfect in early 2023, and over the following 2 years, something in Melissa shifted. Not dramatically, not in any single moment I could name. It was a direction things moved. The birthday party without the right frosting. The Instagram with 8 photographs from the cruise and Lily nowhere in them. The word sweetheart 12 times in a year, and my daughter never once. I told Carol about the 2:07 a.m. phone call. I told her how the number had felt strange to me all morning, the way a specific time can take on weight once it is attached to something. Carol listened to all of it. The flight attendant walked the aisle. Lily's breathing was slow, and even against my arm. After a while, Carol said I had been patient for a long time. I told her I had been patient too long. She looked out the window and told me not to be patient anymore. The carnival glory looked bigger in person than it did in any photograph. We came around a bend in the port road, and there it was, white and stacked, the size of a neighborhood that had decided to float. Lily pressed her face to the taxi window and did not say anything for 30 full seconds. Then she said, "Grandpa, that's a real ship." Check-in at the mid-cruise embarkation dock took 20 minutes. The port agent barely looked at our paperwork. We walked up the gangway with our bags, and Lily turned in slow circles the entire way up, trying to take all of it in at once. The cabin was small, 2 single beds, a porthole, barely enough room to stand between the furniture. Lily sat on one bed and immediately moved to the other to test whether it was different. It was not. She seemed satisfied anyway. I unlatched the porthole cover, and she stood on the bed and looked out at Nassau Harbor, turquoise, flat, dazzling under the afternoon sun. She said it was blue. Actually, really blue. The tension I had been carrying since 2:07 a.m., 4 days of it, eased just slightly, just for a moment. Then I looked out through the porthole at the pool deck one level below, and I saw Melissa. She was on her phone, laughing. Ethan was running near the pool edge, and she waved him to slow down without breaking off the call. She looked relaxed, completely at ease. The version of a person who had no idea anything was wrong. I did not call out. I did not move. There was a layer of glass and a deck of altitude between us, and I thought, not yet. The afternoon was for Lily. She had her swimsuit on in 6 minutes. She went straight to the pool on deck 10 without hesitation. No hovering at the edge. No testing the temperature. Within 15 minutes, she had fallen into a temporary friendship with 2 girls from Ohio who were also 8 and also very interested in whether the ship would pass any islands you could actually see from deck level. I stood at the rail with coffee and watched her. Derek was on a lounge chair 40 feet away. Sunglasses. Phone face down on his knee. A drink with a paper umbrella. He was not watching anything in particular, just occupying space the way people do on vacation when regular life is on hold. He did not look at the pool once in the hour I watched him. I want to be precise about that. Not angry, just precise. Lily was in his line of sight the entire time. His eyes went to the water, to the horizon, to his phone. Not once to the child 20 feet away who had his last name. At 3:58 p.m., his phone buzzed. He picked it up, typed something, and set it back down. I checked my own phone later. He had sent me a message asking how Lily was doing. She was 30 meters from where he was sitting. He had no idea. I wrote back that she was good. That was the moment that mattered most to me. Not because anything happened, but because nothing did. That was the whole thing right there. The gala dinner was formal by cruise standards. Linen, real candles, a pianist in the corner playing Sinatra. Lily had found a sundress in the ship's boutique, yellow with small white flowers. She described it as very fancy but also comfortable, a combination she clearly considered ideal. She put it on with the focus of someone preparing for something important. Carol and I were at a table near the windows. Lily was reading the dessert menu. She had identified it as the most significant document in the room. Then the dining room doors opened. Derek saw me in 4 steps. He stopped so completely that Melissa, half a step behind him, nearly walked into him. I did not stand up. I did not wave. He came over. Melissa followed a few feet back, her expression doing the careful thing people do when they do not yet know what their expression is supposed to be. Derek said, "Dad." His voice was low. He asked what I was doing there and how I was there. I told him cabin 7,144, interior, good rate. Then he looked down. That was when he saw Lily looking up from the dessert menu. She said, "Daddy." She was out of the chair before I could say anything. She ran the 3 steps and hugged him around the waist, and Derek's arms went around her automatically before he thought about it. He held her 1 beat longer than a greeting hug. I noticed that. I noticed that he could not help it. I also noticed Melissa. She had stopped when Lily ran over. She was standing 10 feet from the table. She did not step forward. She did not crouch down. She stood very still, her clutch bag held in both hands in front of her. She had not moved at all. I told Derek quietly to sit down and said we could talk after dinner. That image of Melissa standing completely still stayed with me, because that stillness was the whole story. That stillness was 3 years of a child reading a room and learning what she was worth. Carol took Lily to the dessert station, where there was a chocolate fountain I had strategically noticed on the menu. Derek and I ended up in the corridor outside the dining room. Cream-colored walls, a faint mechanical hum, nowhere in particular. Derek told me I had no right. He was not yelling. Derek had Sandra's voice when he was upset. It went quiet, not loud. I told him he was probably right and invited him to go ahead. He blinked. He had expected an argument. He told me this was his trip, his family vacation, and that I did not get to just show up and make it into something. I told him I had not shown up to make it into something. I had shown up because Lily called me at 7 inches the morning, and asked why she was not there, and I did not have an answer. He said she was 8. I said yes, she was 8, which was exactly the age she was going to remember this. That landed. I could see it. Derek rubbed the back of his neck, a gesture I recognized from when he was 17 and had run the car up the curb. He said Melissa handled the planning, and that he did not always know every detail. I said his name and waited. Then I asked if he had asked Lily whether she wanted to come before he booked the trip. Silence. I asked if he had asked her at all. Still nothing. I told him he did not need to explain himself to me. But before the trip ended, he needed to explain himself to her, not in a way that scared her, just in a way that let her know she mattered to her father. He nodded once, barely. Then Melissa appeared at the corridor entrance. Her eyes moved between us, fast and precise. She said Derek's name and told him Ethan was waiting. He looked at me for a moment. Then he went. That night, Lily and I ate ice cream from the ship's soft-serve machine on Deck 10 and watched the water go dark. She had gotten vanilla with rainbow sprinkles. Not because she asked for that, but because that was what they had. She accepted it with the calmness of someone accustomed to receiving the available version of what she wanted. She ate her cone and leaned against the railing beside me. Then she asked whether I thought dolphins swam at night. I told her I thought they swam whenever they wanted. She thought about that and said it was a good deal. Then she ate the last of her cone and announced that she wanted to go to bed because there was a glass-blowing demonstration tomorrow and she did not want to be tired for it. I watched her go back inside. The next morning, Melissa found me alone. Lily and Carol were at the glass-blowing demonstration. I was having coffee at a small table near the stern, watching the water. Melissa sat down across from me without asking. She set her own coffee on the table. She looked well-rested. She said my name with the weight of something prepared. She told me she genuinely respected what I had done for Lily by coming there. She said I was a devoted grandfather. I thanked her. Then she said she thought I was creating a complication that did not need to exist. She said the trip had been designed for their family to reconnect. It had been planned months ago, very specifically. Now that I was there, Lily was going to sense that something had been wrong with the original arrangement, and that would create anxiety for her. I set my cup down and said Melissa's name. Then I told her Lily had called me at 7 inches the morning. She had not been asleep. She had asked why she was not on the trip. Melissa said children got separation anxiety. I told her Lily had asked me whether she was part of the family. Something shifted behind Melissa's expression. Not cracking, recalibrating. She said those were not Lily's exact words. I told her they were not the exact words, but that was the question, and I did not have a clean answer. For 3 years, I had been telling myself Melissa just needed more time. I had watched that time pass, and I had kept counting things. The birthday with the wrong cake. The Instagram post with 8 photographs and not one of Lily. This trip. At some point, more time stops being an explanation. I told Melissa I was not there to fight. I was there because Lily was my granddaughter. She was the daughter of my son. There was no version of the family where Lily was optional. Melissa stood up. She left without another word. It was the first time I could remember her not having the last one. I did not expect Ethan to find me. It was mid-afternoon. I was reading in the forward lounge on Deck 9, one of those wide, window-lined corridors where the light comes in flat and warm. I heard him before I saw him. 11-year-old footsteps at 11-year-old velocity. He stopped when he saw me. Then, with the directness of a child who has not yet learned to approach things sideways, he came over and sat down. He said hello. I said hello back. He looked at his hands, sandy hair, Derek's jaw, Melissa's eyes. He was a good kid, genuinely. Not a bad person in any of this. Just a child who had been handed the shape of things and had taken it for granted, the way children do. He told me he had a question. I told him to go ahead. He asked why Lily had not come from the beginning. I asked what made him think about that. He said he had asked his mother, and she told him the ship was not right for Lily. He chewed the inside of his cheek. Then he said, "But Lily's fine. She's not scared of stuff." He paused. Then he said, "It felt wrong." I told him he was a perceptive kid. He asked if she was okay. I told him she was watching someone make glass and asking 12 questions a minute. He smiled because he knew her well enough to picture it exactly. Then he said Lily should have been there the whole time. He got up and walked back to whatever 11-year-olds do on cruise ships, simple and final, leaving me with the verdict of someone who had not yet learned to complicate the obvious. I thought about the cereal bowl on my counter, the purple box Sandra had found after 3 stores, the fact that Lily came to me every Saturday, and the fact that until that week I had never asked myself why she came every single week without fail for 4 years. That evening, Derek and Lily ate dinner together, not with me. Across the dining room, I could see the 3 of them, Derek, Lily, and Ethan. Melissa was not there. I do not know where she was. I watched from my table. Derek was leaning forward, elbows on the tablecloth, talking to Lily directly. She was nodding. At one point, she said something, and he laughed the real laugh, not the polite version. He cut her chicken for her, which she was fully capable of doing herself, and she let him, which meant something. I turned back to my own dinner. The hardest moment of the whole trip came on the last full day. Lily and I stood at the stern rail watching the sun go down. She had her elbows on the rail and her chin in her hands, completely at ease in the way children are when they trust where they are. The sky was doing that thing where it goes orange, then pink, then dark blue at the edges in a way that should not be possible. She asked if she could call the trip a family vacation. I asked why. She chose her words carefully. I had noticed she did that more than most adults. She said she had heard Mom Melissa tell Daddy that the trip was for their biological family. She had said it in the kitchen. Lily did not think Melissa knew she was in the hallway. I kept my hands on the rail. Melissa had said it. In the kitchen. While Lily was 8 feet away, not as a whisper, as a fact. I looked out at the water. I remembered passing Melissa at the pool that morning. Her watch had read 10:14 a.m. I had registered the detail without knowing why, and now I understood. I had been storing it the way you store a detail that is going to matter later. This was when it mattered. I told Lily she was my granddaughter. She had been my granddaughter since the day her dad brought her home, and she would be my granddaughter every day after this one. There was no version of the family where she was not in it. She was quiet for a moment. Then she asked what Melissa had meant. I told her that was something her father owed her an answer to. She looked back at the water and said it looked like it was on fire a little bit. I told her it did. The last morning before we docked at Port Canaveral, we were on the outdoor breakfast deck. It was warm and clear, and the sea was flat enough to look painted. Families sat at tables, surrounded by the low, cheerful noise of people winding down from a vacation. Lily was eating a waffle with the focus it deserved. Carol was on her second coffee. I was watching the deck. Then Ethan came running. He spotted Lily from 12 feet away, and his face opened with the uncomplicated joy of a child who had just remembered something good. He told Lily to come do the family photo. His mother wanted one before they left. Lily looked at me. I gave her a small nod. She got up and went with him. I watched her cross the deck to Derek and Melissa's table. Melissa was standing with her phone, framing the shot. Ethan was bouncing on his heels with the energy of a kid doing something helpful. Melissa looked up. She saw Lily. Something moved across her face. Not cruelty. Inconvenience. Melissa told Ethan she had meant the three of them, their picture. Ethan stopped bouncing. He said Lily was family. Melissa said she knew, but Ethan cut in and said Lily was right there. At the neighboring table, a couple in their late 50s, the kind who had clearly been married a long time, noticed. The woman put down her fork. Her husband looked over. A crew member a few steps away slowed his walk. Melissa said Ethan's name and started to repeat herself. I stood up. 8 steps across the deck. Not fast. Not slow. Steady. I stopped next to Lily. I looked at Derek. He was sitting down. He had not yet said a single word through any of it. My voice was even when I told him to put his daughter in the photo. He looked at Melissa. She looked at the railing. He looked at Lily. She was standing with her hands loose at her sides in the yellow flower dress, looking at her father with the face of someone who had learned not to be too hopeful about things. Derek stood up. He stepped to Lily and put his arm around her shoulders. Melissa did not step into the frame. The woman at the next table stood up without making any announcement, as though someone doing the right thing was simply the permission she had been waiting for. She asked if we would like her to get one of all of us. I handed her my phone. She took the photo. She handed it back. She returned to her seat. She and her husband said nothing. They did not need to. I did not raise my voice. I did not deliver a speech. I did not tell Melissa what I thought of her. Any of those things would have made it about me. It was not about me. The photo exists. It has Derek and Lily and Ethan and Carol and me in morning light on the deck of a ship none of us planned to be on. Melissa is not in it. Derek found me on the stern deck that afternoon. Lily was on her 3rd swim of the day. Carol had declared herself permanently resident at the pool. Derek came and stood at the rail beside me, and for a while we looked at the ship's wake, white against blue. He said he did not have the right to do that in front of everyone. I told him he was right, and that I should have had the conversation 3 years ago in his kitchen, where it belonged. He was quiet. I told him he knew. He knew Lily was not getting there. He kept telling me Melissa needed more time, and I kept believing him because it was easier than the alternative. I told him I knew it was not simple with Melissa. I knew she had gone through something hard, and then something unexpected happened, and that was a genuine difficulty. But it was not something Lily caused, and it was not Lily's to carry. Derek pressed his palms against the railing. His knuckles went a little white. I told him Lily had asked me the night before whether she counted as biological family. She had overheard something. She had asked me in the same tone she used when she asked if dolphins swam at night, like she was just trying to understand the rules of the world. She was 8 years old. She should not have had that question. He closed his eyes. I told him I was not asking him to choose between them. I was asking him to make sure his daughter knew she was his. We stood there for a while. The ship moved through the water. Somewhere below us, Lily was in a pool on a cruise ship she had not been invited to, having the time of her life. Derek finally said, in a voice that was doing its best, that he did not know how to fix it. I told him to start by asking Lily what she needed. I told him she would tell him. That evening, Lily and I stood at the stern rail one last time. The ship was running its lights, moving through dark water. The wake was white below us, and the stars above were more stars than people usually get to see. Lily had her elbows on the rail and her chin in her hands. She said, "Grandpa Tommy." I said yes. She told me she had a dream the night before about Grandma Sandra. I kept my eyes on the water. She said Sandra was wearing a yellow sweater. She was standing on a deck somewhere and waving at her. Then Lily paused and said Sandra looked really happy. I put my arm around her shoulders. She leaned into it. Sandra would have done exactly what I did. She would have made the same calls, packed the same bag, shown up the same way. She just would have done it 3 years earlier, and with considerably less patience for the middle part. I told Lily Sandra loved her a lot. Lily said she knew, and that she loved Sandra too. The next morning, we docked at Port Canaveral. Lily dragged her flamingo suitcase down the gangway herself. One hand on the handle, library book tucked under her other arm, squinting in the Florida sun. She was already asking me about the drive home, whether we could stop for breakfast, and whether I thought there were dolphins near the coast of Florida, which seemed very possible to her. She looked back at the ship once. I want to be honest about what 3 months later actually means. It does not mean fixed. It does not mean resolved. It means Derek and Melissa are in counseling, which is hard going by Derek's account. Melissa has not become a different person, but she is in the room, and that is further than she was in June. Both kids went to the same summer camp in July. The first call home came from both of them using the same cabin phone, 2 bunks apart, and both of them were crying because they missed their family. Derek told me that story while laughing for the first time in a while. Every Saturday morning, Lily is at my table. Derek drops her off now. He comes in, has coffee, and stays 20 minutes. That part is new. I bought a photo album in June. Small, hardcover, clear plastic sleeves. The photo from the ship's breakfast deck is in the first sleeve. Derek and Lily and Ethan and Carol and me in morning light on a boat none of us planned to be on. Lily opened it at my kitchen table and looked at it for a long time. Then she said, "Grandpa, we look like a real family in this." I told her we were a real family. She turned the page, looking for more photos to put in it. The purple cereal box is on the second shelf, where it always is. I bought a new box last week because the old one was almost gone. I do not think about it much. I just buy the purple box and put the bowl on the counter at 7:30. And Lily comes through the door at 7:45. That is Saturday. Last week, Lily's second grade teacher sent home a drawing in her backpack. 2 figures stood on something blue, one short and one tall, with a yellow circle behind them and wavy lines underneath. At the bottom of the page, in the teacher's handwriting, was a transcription of what Lily had said when she turned it in. She had said, "That's my grandpa. He comes when I need him." Sandra knew before I did that the love you build in ordinary things is the only love that holds. A bowl of cereal on a counter. A suitcase packed before it is asked for. A phone answered at 7 inches the morning. The drawing is on my refrigerator, held up with the same magnet Sandra used, in the same spot where Sandra used to put things. The flamingo suitcase is back in the closet, ready when Lily needs it.